Hey, what's good everyone? It's Yash. I hope you're all having a great day. So today we're going to talk about how to soften up your lights. And as you might already know, that softer lights goes well with almost everything, especially for interviews and talking head shots like this one. Softer lights give your subject more of that natural looking look, if I can say. It adds a really nice overall light tone as well as adds those nice softer shadows. But the lights that you buy doesn't give you softer lights right out of the box. You have to do some things and add some stuff to your light to get that softer look. And we're gonna look at just that. So with that said, let's look at some ways that you can soften up your lights. So the simplest and the easiest way that I could think of to soften up a light is to just reflect it off from another surface. And what I mean by that is if you take your light and bounce it off from another surface, let's say like a wall, then the reflected light will be much more softer than the original source. And the results that you get from this also looks really nice. It gives off a pleasing, soft, evenly flowed light. But using something as your wall might not be the best option for using this method, as if your wall is not white but some, let's say, other color, then that color can also end up being reflected on your subject, giving them that overall tone of your wall. So using something like a foam sheet might work out much better, as you can easily control what color your reflective surface is and the positioning and all kind of stuff. Now looking at the result that this method gives you, it gives off a nice overall pleasing looking soft light. It's evenly distributed and it overall looks really good. But there are a couple of things that you should keep in mind if you're gonna be using this method to soften up your lights. Like firstly, you don't have much control over the flow of your light as you're reflecting it off from another surface, so the light is scattering everywhere and focusing it up might be a lot more difficult. And the other thing is that the overall light output will also be reduced after you reflected the light. But besides those things, this method works really good if you want to quickly soften up your light without adding anything and doing much. So the second way that you can soften up your light is to use some sort of a diffusion material. And a diffusion material is a cloth or a paper-based thing that you put in between your light and your subject. And when the light passes through the diffusion material, it softens it up. Now this way is much more better to use in my opinion than the first one, as the look that it gives off looks more natural and pleasing in my opinion. It gives off a really nice overall softer look. It flows really evenly across your subject and it gives off a really nice look to your subject. So there are a lot of things that you can use a diffusion material, like you can use white sheets, you can use shower curtains, you can use tracing paper, and tracing paper actually works really great for this method. I used to use tracing paper a lot back in the day when I wanted to soften up my lights and didn't have anything else to work with. So you can use tracing paper and you can buy straight up diffusion cloth, and they would work much better if you want to diffuse your light using a diffusion material. And if you have one of those 5-in-1 reflectors, the metal ring actually has a diffusion screen in it and it's meant to be used to diffuse lights, so you can use that as well and it works really well actually. So if you have one of those reflectors, you can use that. Now looking at the overall result that you get from this, it looks really good. It creates a nice even flow of light. It looks much better than, in my opinion, than the first method, and the control that you get from this method is also better than the first one, as the light is not reflecting off from a surface but whereas it's going in just one direction, so the scattering is not that much and the overall light output is not reduced by a lot. It still gets reduced by a bit but not that much and still gives off a really nice look. So this was the second way to diffuse a light using a diffusion material. So moving on to the next one, and probably the best way if you want to diffuse your light, is to use some sort of softbox or a grip attachment for your light. And if you're a filmmaker or photographer, you might already know what a softbox is, but for those of you who don't know, a softbox is basically just a box that has reflective coating on the inside, and at one end there is diffusion material, and you take that box and attach it to your light. So when the light goes into the softbox, it firstly bounces around in the box because of the reflective material, and at the end the light goes through the diffusion material, which results in a really nice looking soft overall look. And in my opinion, this is the best way if you want to soften up your light. It gives off the best looking results. It's nicely toned up, and I'm actually using a softbox myself for this shot right here. The softbox just right here. So as you can see, it gives off a really nice overall softer look across my face while also adding up some nice softer shadows on the other side. Well, I'm actually using another light to fill up those shadows, but still you can see how great of a job the softbox is doing. Now, overall, using this method is also better in my opinion, as it's just one whole package and not a lot of things that are scattered around. It's just one package, one softbox, and your light. You can easily position it any way you like. And the light control that you get by using a softbox is also much better, as the light is not scattering everywhere, but instead coming in from one direction. And if you want to focus it even more, you can add something called a grid to your softbox, which will focus it down to just one beam. And I'm actually using that with my softbox to focus down the light on me. As you can see, it's not spilling that much onto the background, just a little bit. So you can also add that. And overall, the softbox is a really great way to soften up a light. The overall look that it gives off is really pleasing and natural looking, and it will give you that consistent look almost every time you use it. So using something like a softbox will give you the best result if you want to soften up your light. So those are some of the ways that you can use to soften up the lights that you already have. So that's all for today's video. And I know this video is not that interesting, and that's because I'm working on something else that is more interesting in my opinion. And I thought it would be done by this week, but it's taking more time than I thought, and I'm hoping that it would be done by next week, so maybe stick around for that. And yeah, that's it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.